Welcome to Into the Mythic. I'm Leanne O'Donnell, and I'm delighted to be introducing this second season of podcasts exploring the ancient magic embedded in Ireland's mythology and folklore. I'm coming to you from the southwest coast of Ireland, near the village of Ballydehob in County Cork, and like last time, I'll be working with Polo Coleman, who's an artist, a musician and a storyteller. And together we're going to be diving into some of Ireland's oldest stories to see if we can hear them with fresh ears, and to see what resonances they might have for us now in these times. Today's story is a really, really old one, and it concerns two mythological characters who have a love affair that results in the birth of a very special child. You might almost call it the very first love story in the Irish mythological canon. So this is what happens when the Dagda, the god of the sun, meets the goddess Boine.
Well, Boine is a land goddess, an earth goddess. She's the river goddess. She represents the fertility of the soil, of the earth, of the land. And the Dagda is one of the two oldest gods we have from the Tuatha Dé Danann. And he is the one who makes day. He's the sun god. He rides his chariot across the sky and rises in the morning and rides it across the sky and goes down in the west. He also has a cauldron, a bottomless and endless cauldron, so he can feed people. So he's able to provide food. And he has a stake, a very large stake that would take 8 normal men to carry. And it's a double-ended stake, fork stake, that he drags across the countryside. And when he drags it, it makes it a mark that's like a province boundary.
Wow, so he's a very significant figure then.
Oh, he's extremely significant, yeah.
And this is within the Tuatha Dé Danann, who we've talked about before, but maybe you just remind us briefly who they are.
They're the people who came from the north, who lived here when the sons of Mill arrived. Amragan and his brothers came and took over the country from them, from the Tuatha Dé Danann. And they were the people who, rather than being defeated, they just went sideways to the sun and went into the Hollow Hills, became the Sidhe, the fairy folk.
So these are very magical, supernatural beings, and the stories regarding them are very ancient.
Very ancient. And Dagda is about the most ancient of all of them. As Dagda is riding his chariot across the sky, he looks down and he sees Boine, who is a beautiful woman, goddess, earth goddess woman, and he wants her. So he stops his chariot. Now, stopping his chariot means he can stop time. So everyone else is frozen, whereas he and whoever his subject is can carry on as normal.
So the sun is held at a point in the sky almost.
Exactly, yes.
The day stops.
Yes.
And he steps out of his chariot and heads down to this beautiful river goddess.
Yes. And he woos her and wins her. And then they sleep together, and she becomes pregnant over time, and she goes full term and has the baby, and the baby is born, and then he goes back to his chariot and life carries on as normal.
And does all of that happen while time is frozen for everyone else?
It does. So it's described as a day and a night.
Quick work.
Yeah.
So he stops his chariot, stops time, and comes down and woos Boine.
Yes.
And she conceives, bears the child, and delivers the child,
yes.
all in this little bubble of time that he's created for them.
Exactly, yes, yeah.
Wow. And that makes me think a little bit about what happens to time when people fall in love. You know, the time changes when you're in love. It feels a little bit like you're in a bubble of
your own time.
Of your own time,
yes,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So what happens then after their bubble of time has come to a close?
Well, he leaves her, gets back into his chariot and continues his journey to the west and finishes the day eventually.
So I wonder, does he have to do that? I mean, is that some sort of... I wonder, would he have stayed forever if he could have?
I wonder, but he's not that kind, so I don't think he would really. I think he just does his thing.
The sun does have to keep rising and setting.
It has no choice about it. Yeah.
So he has his time, and then he goes on with his mission.
Yeah, exactly.
That image of the chariot moving across the sky, where do we have, like, what is it like? Is it the horse-drawn chariot?
Yes, a horse-drawn one. Yes, so he's in a horse-drawn chariot with the horse at the front, and he's whipping the horse, and it's racing across the sky.
Wow. And Boine, tell me a bit about the River Boyne and the context there. Her name.
Boine flows through County Meath, which is a very rich area.
The River Boyne, this is.
The River Boyne, yes, yeah. So it flows through. It's the fifth province. There are 5 provinces in Ireland. 4 of them are actual ones. There's Ulster, Leinster, Munster, and Connacht, and then the 5th one is Meath, which, although it's a real place, it's kind of the centre of Ireland. So all of these things happen in and around the centre of Ireland at this stage of the game. So Ishnok is the navel of Ireland. That's the very central part of Ireland. And Meath is in the centre as well of Ireland. So Meath becomes a sort of mind province, a province of the mind.
And I'm thinking about fertility and the River Boyne and the landscape around there. And it's hugely fertile land even now.
It is, yes.
It's agricultural land.
Yes.
Not, say, the rocky mountainous stuff that we have around here.
No, not at all, no. And also there are lots and lots of shrines there, of tombs there, particularly the great passage tombs, the passage graves.
And most famously, Newgrange.
Of course, which comes into this story perfectly as well.
Yeah, tell me a bit about how that parallels the story that we've just been hearing about.
Well, Newgrange is a large hill, basically, that's made out of a couple of 100,000 tons of rock that were all carved, hewn, carved with arcane symbols, built into a pattern, and then made into a hill. And there's a small 9-inch hole over the doorway, which faces the rising sun on the winter solstice. And the sun rises over the hill, and it shines in through that hole, and it lights up. Through the hole, it lights up the passageway, gradually more and more and more, until, on a clear day, of course, it lights up the full passageway right into the central chamber of it. So this meeting of Dagda and Boine is a perfect simile or way of explaining what this means, how the Dagda, the sun, can get in everywhere, and on this day, the shortest day of the year even, it gets in there, and it inspires the earth to flower, to blossom, to provide goodness.
To spark life.
Exactly.
In the earth. So it seems, we don't know, but it seems pretty likely that the same mindset and psyche and culture that built these kind of passage tombs, that particularly were focused on the passage of the sunlight, is likely to be the same culture that had this kind of story.
Sure, yes, yeah. And they were people who were farmers, so they followed the sun, they watched the sun, they were aware of where the sun was, and they managed to turn that into their, religion, we're guessing, but we can't really say for sure, but into something that was very important. Because all these tombs, all these standing stone circles, the standing stones themselves, the alignments, they're all lined up with the sun rising or setting, particularly at the solstice, but also other times of year. So the Dagda as the sun god and Boine as the earth god meet, and that's a very important meeting because you need the sun needs the earth for fertility. So it's something that has to happen.
And it's a key metaphor about life on this planet,
yes, yeah.
Which is that earth and sun together create growth.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And what do they produce? What kind of sun comes out of this union?
A very special sun, Aengus Og, who is the Celtic god of love. And he is a beautiful young man who walks around the countryside just having fun, basically, doing whatever he wants. He's mainly naked. He's kind of clothed in flowers and things. He's got birds flying around his head. Each bird is a kiss that he's taken and made into a bird. And he just wherever he goes, people fall in love with him. Women do, men love him. Flowers grow as he walks along, plants come up, and so he is kind of the if you think of the dog, the sun, and Boine, the earth, meeting together, he is the perfect fruit of their loins.
Wow. The god of love.
Yeah.
That's really lovely. That's a lovely idea, isn't it? That this is what that bubble of love created by Dagda in order to woo Boine produced this beautiful being surrounded by birdsong and flowers who just kind of wanders through life creating love.
Yes, exactly. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. And do we know much about Angus?
We don't really. We just know that he wanders through the land. He does crop up at times, but mainly in small bits. But he retires to Brú na Bóinne, the hostel of the Boyne, up there in County Meath, and he goes in there and he erects an invisible wall around himself, around the Brú, the hostel, so that no one can see him unless he wants you to.
Oh, interesting.
So that's that is fascinating.
So a bit like the story of the Tuatha De Danann after their battle with the Milesians, there's a withdrawal from the seen dimension.
Exactly, yes. And that could be just at the end of their reign, because the sons of Mill arrive. So he is just gone into this invisible place.
So he's there, but you can't see him.
Exactly. And he comes out at times and does things, wanders around.
And I suppose I'm wondering, if we kind of got in the car now and drove up there, would we be able to see him? How would we? I wonder how we would come into an encounter with.
Yeah. Well, it's coming up to midsummer, so maybe next week we could drive up and see if because it's at these times of the year, midwinter and midsummer, the veils between the worlds are at their thinnest. So that's when you have a better chance of seeing. So now in midsummer and at Samhain, at Halloween.
That's when the veil grows thin.
Yes, yeah.
I think I'm more keen personally to meet Angus Oge than some of the people who'll be around at Samhain.
I think so too. I would as well.
That's my kind of unsophisticated disposition. I'd rather meet the guy with the birdsong and the flowers. That's a really interesting idea, and it ties in with what we were talking about in one of the earlier episodes about, and I think you said it, that an era comes to a close. It's not their time anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
So they have to find another way of existing. They don't cease to exist.
Yeah, exactly.
But they just have to do it in a different way.
Exactly, yes, yeah. Turn sideways to the sun, become invisible, but still be there.
And I wonder, as I muse here on that, whether that, again, is the human psyche's way of trying to understand. We're trying to understand maybe that we're not living in such magical times anymore. That there was a time in the past where these beings could actually, walk down the road and you could encounter them.
Yes, yeah.
And now we're living in a time where they're there, but we can't see them.
Yeah. Yeah, the magic has been removed from us, but it's still there. So that's the good thing to take from it, that the magic is still there.
For those who have eyes to see it.
Yes, exactly.
At midsummer.
Yes.
I wonder, can I get this edited in time for midsummer?
Yeah.
And then everyone will know to go out and look for these mystical spiritual beings. I wanted to understand a little bit more about the role that the Dagda plays in the stories we have about the Tuatha De Danann. I was thinking that in Greek or Roman mythology, the sun god would be a handsome, suave kind of guy who was very obviously desirable. But in classic Irish fashion, our mythological sun god doesn't exactly fit the mould of the handsome devil archetype.
Like one of the things they do is for clothing, for usually fools really are shown wearing short tunics and odd clothes. And the Dagda does wear these kind of clothes despite the fact that he's the primary god. It's very short at the front and it's slightly longer at the back, so everything is showing. He wears his shoes sort of inside out. It's horsehair, but the horsehair is on the outside. And he walks around carrying this big staff with him then.
So when you say that, that's a really interesting picture that you're building in my mind, because he sounds a little bit like some of the versions of the kind of archetypal fool, almost the jester, or somebody who's mocked but secretly quite powerful, or something like that.
Yeah, it seems that he is very powerful, but possibly because he's so old, they mock him as well, or maybe they just mocked. They wanted to mock their gods. There are several stories about him. One is that when the Fomorians, they were a race of people who lived on an island across the sea, they used to exact a tribute from the Tuatha Dé Danann, and there's going to be a battle because Lu has come along. Lu Lávada has come along, and he has roused the Tuatha Dé Danann, and they're going to fight them. So they want to postpone it slightly while they're preparing. So they send on a mission of diplomatic importance. They send the Dagda over to the Fomorians to deal with them and to ask them for longer time, which they do. They do this kind of thing in the stories. While he's there, once they've agreed, they say, right, you love soup, we're going to make you some soup. So they make this giant cauldron of soup with 8 times 8, 80 bowls of water and 8 times 80 bowls of soup of milk, and they add in lard and sheep and goats and everything, and they make a huge stew, and they pour this into a giant hole in the ground, which is probably a mockery of his bottomless or endless cauldron. And they tell him if he doesn't eat it all, they'll kill him. So they give him a spoon then to with which to eat it, and the spoon is so big that a man and a woman could lie in the spoon. So he starts with the bits. He takes out a few bits of meat and lard and so on, and says, if the soup tastes anything like this, it's fine. So he starts eating, and he eats and he eats and he eats and he eats everything, and finally he even rubs his finger around the rim of the edge of the earth cauldron and finishes it, and then he goes and sleeps. And actually he even has a sexual encounter with a woman who promises that she'll use her powers for the Tuatha Dé Danann in the coming battle.
So this is after he's had this massive meal.
After he's had this massive meal and a bit of a sleep.
So what I'm taking from that is that this being has a kind of boundless appetite, like this capacity to take a huge amount in and then have an encounter with a woman.
Exactly.
That's a lot of appetite.
Yes, yeah. There's another story actually where he's walking along in his strange outfit, carrying his big staff, and he's just had a major feed and his stomach is full, and he sees this beautiful young woman before him who's walking ahead of him, and he wants her, but he is impotent because of the food in his belly, and she wrestles with him and throws him to the ground, and she throws him in a sort of a hollow in a hump in a declivity in the ground, and he's lying there giving out to her saying, why did you do this to me? And she said, because you're useless. And then he gets rid of the food, whatever way that is, he can only imagine, and then he's ready for her, and he picks her up on his back and he takes her off and makes love with her. So he's kind of the one who does that sort of thing.
Interesting. And he's the sun god, so he has this huge energy, obviously this kind of very primeval energy.
Yes, yeah. And also he's linked with the Morrigan, with the goddess of war. Quite often before a battle, he'll be walking along. Like when he came back from the Fomorians, he met a woman in the river, and at other stages as well, he meets a woman in the river, and they make love, and she says, "I'll make sure that." For instance, the person who threatened that he would kill him if he didn't finish the soup would end in the battle, and she does. So there's that strong link.
And that's the Morrigan.
Yeah, that's the Morrigan. She's the battle goddess. And to have that link between the god and a goddess of battle is very important, because it's very useful, because it means you can win your battles.
Very interesting. And it's all quite interconnected, isn't it? All these different archetypal characters are connected to each other. So in that story, we see that he has this boundless appetite and this capacity for getting out of difficult situations when he ate the endless soup.
Yes.
Yeah. And what else do we know about Dagda? Any other stories that would give us an insight into how he was seen and how he was understood?
Yes, there's one where at night, when he's working on a great ditch for the king, because he's not always king, depending on the story. So he's working on this ditch, and when he gets back at night, he gets his food, and there's a blind man who sits beside him, who always asks for 3 portions, the 3 best portions of his food. So he can't refuse him, really, because of honor and all that. So he gives it. So he's starving, really, because he's giving the 3 best portions of his food. And at one stage, he's there working in the ditch, and he's exhausted because he's so tired because of he hasn't had good food. And his son Aengus Og comes along, and in the course of the conversation, he tells him about this blind man who asks for his food. So Aengus Og says, "Don't worry, here's 3," and he reaches into his bag, he takes out 3 pieces of gold, and he says, "Put these into your food, and when he asks for the 3 best parts of your food, these will be the 3 best parts, because they'll have gold in them." And he'll eat them, and it'll put a stop to him. So that night, he goes back and he gets his food, and he takes out the 3 gold pieces and puts them into the food. And then the blind man asks him for the 3 best parts of his food. So he gives him the 3 pieces, and he eats them and dies. So that's the end of that. But the king, the people then are enraged because he's killed this old man. And they say it to the king. So the king is going to have him killed. And he said, no, this is not a proper judgment. You haven't heard my side of the story. So he tells the story of how the man was taking his 3 best portions, and the king decides they'll have an autopsy. They'll open him up, and if the 3 gold pieces are in his stomach, then the story is true. So they do, and they find the gold, and they realize that he's speaking the truth. So he's exonerated. Exactly.
That must be one of the earliest accounts of an autopsy ever.
Yeah.
Like it can't be all that common a thing, but that's thousands and thousands of years old.
Yes, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Wow. So there's a true crime podcast we could do where the mythical sun god gets accused of murder and they have to do an autopsy on the blind man. There's something in there, definitely. Listening back to this story, I'm reminded of what often happens to me when I think about these ancient tales over a couple of days. What I've discovered is that what seems like a simple story can throw up multiple and quite complex meanings when it's revisited. And multiple meanings, I suppose, depending on how I'm listening to it. Initially, I suppose, I was most intrigued about how Dagda stopped time to woo Boine and how Aengus Og was the love-filled product of this passionate union. But listening now to Pohl talking about the Dagda, I'm really interested in the psyche that made its sun god dress like a fool and behave like a glutton. A somewhat hapless character who was goaded for impotence by a beautiful young woman, and in the last story needed to be rescued by his son because he kept giving the best parts of his dinner to a blind man. Now, if you're Irish, you'll understand the Irish tendency to take the mick. No one is safe. We slag off everyone. And that includes our most successful politicians and actors and musicians, the demigods of our day. We like to make sure that nobody gets above themselves. Mocking people or slagging people off is basically one of our core national traits. And what I'm taking from this story today is how fundamentally healthy it is to mock your gods. to give them powers, but to give them flaws. Even immensely powerful sun gods can be less than heroic when they're the subject of amusing tales told round a fire. And maybe there's a lesson in this for all of us. I like the idea that gods can be mocked, can be flawed. It's a very different way to look at divine beings, but it's possibly a good thing for leaders and high-status individuals to have these stories as reminders that even gods can have feet of clay.